From Cold War to cosmic conflict, 50 years of evolving space warfare strategies. Introduction. The evolution of space warfare strategies over the past 5 decades has witnessed a significant transformation from the strategic competition of the Cold War to the contemporary realities of cosmic conflict. This shift has been characterized by an increasing militarization and potential weaponization of outer space, raising critical international security and legal challenges. Historical context and developments. The Cold War era catalyzed significant investments in space technology by both the United States and the Soviet Union. The launch of Sputnik 1 in 1957, Yuri Gagarin's historic spaceflight in 1961, and the Apollo 11 moon landing in 1969 marked pivotal achievements that extended beyond scientific exploration to military applications. These milestones established the strategic implications of space technologies, which became increasingly evident during the Gulf War in 1991. The U.S. military utilized satellites for reconnaissance and navigation, demonstrating the integration of space capabilities into conventional warfare. Militarization versus weaponization. The concepts of militarization and weaponization of space are often conflated but represent distinct phenomena. Militarization refers to the use of space for military purposes without the deployment of weapons such as reconnaissance and navigation satellites. In contrast, weaponization involves the placement of weapons in space, effectively transforming it into a battlefield. As of mid-2024, approximately 60 countries have a presence in space, but only a few possess the capability to develop offensive space weapons. The first operational space weapon was an anti-satellite ASAT system, with both the US and USSR developing such capabilities during the Cold War. Recent advancements have seen China and India join this exclusive group, underscoring the growing global interest in space as a military domain. Current trends and technologies. The current landscape of space warfare is marked by the proliferation of satellites. With over 10,000 active satellites orbiting the Earth, the majority being commercial ventures like SpaceX's Starlink. However, the increasing amount of space debris poses significant risks, complicating the operational environment. Directed energy weapons (DEWs), including high-energy lasers, represent the forefront of technological advancements in space warfare. These weapons offer new strategies for disabling enemy systems without physical destruction, while threats such as high-altitude electromagnetic pulses (HEMP) could disrupt satellite communications. Legal challenges and international dynamics. The legal framework governing space remains inadequate to address concerns about weaponization. The 1967 Outer Space Treaty prohibits the placement of weapons of mass destruction in space but leaves conventional weapons in a legal gray area. Efforts to establish a comprehensive ban on space weapons have faced resistance, particularly from the US and its allies, who view such initiatives as strategic maneuvers by Russia. The geopolitical rivalry among major powers, particularly the US, Russia, and China, is increasingly evident as they enhance their respective space capabilities. Conclusion and future implications. As we advance further into the 21st century, the militarization and potential weaponization of space are likely to escalate, necessitating a re-evaluation of existing international treaties to prevent an arms race in outer space. The emerging realities of space conflict pose pressing challenges for policymakers, emphasizing the need for robust legal frameworks and international cooperation to mitigate the risks associated with space warfare. Militarization of space, a historical perspective. The militarization of space has been a gradual process since the onset of the space age. Notably, the Gulf War marked a turning point where the U.S. military relied heavily on satellite systems to create an integrated battle platform. The use of GPS allowed American forces to navigate and track the Iraqi army, fundamentally changing the nature of warfare. The establishment of the U.S. Space Force and the revival of the U.S. Space Command are indicative of the growing recognition of the importance of space in military strategies. Weaponization, the next frontier. While militarization involves utilizing space assets for military operations, weaponization transforms outer space into a potential combat zone. The 1967 Outer Space Treaty explicitly prohibits weapons of mass destruction in space, but ambiguities surrounding conventional weapons create a legal loophole. This gray area has been exploited by powerful nations to enhance their military capabilities in space, leading to an arms race reminiscent of the Cold War. The space arms race, a reality check. Today, approximately 60 countries possess a space presence, but only a handful are capable of developing offensive space weapons. The only operational space weapon to date remains the ASAT system, with notable tests conducted by the US, Russia, China, and India. The proliferation of space debris, a consequence of ASAT tests, poses significant risks to all spacefaring nations. Advanced space weapons, including kinetic bombardment and directed energy weapons, are still largely theoretical, but their development is gaining traction. Technological advancements and military strategies. Directed energy weapons, particularly high-energy lasers and electromagnetic weapons, are at the forefront of military innovations. These technologies offer new strategies for disabling adversary systems without causing physical destruction. The potential for HEMP detonations to disrupt satellite communications presents a legitimate threat to national security. The U.S. has recognized the importance of addressing these threats, as demonstrated by executive orders aimed at enhancing resilience against electromagnetic pulses. International legal framework, challenges and opportunities. The quest for an effective legal framework to govern the weaponization of space has proven challenging. Competing proposals at the UN Security Council reflect the complexities of establishing consensus among major powers. The inability to adopt comprehensive regulations raises concerns about the future of space security and the potential for an arms race in outer space. The ongoing geopolitical rivalry necessitates robust international cooperation to address the challenges posed by emerging space technologies. Future implications for global security. As space becomes increasingly militarized and weaponized, the implications for global security are profound. The potential for conflict in outer space could redefine international relations and necessitate a re-evaluation of existing treaties. Policymakers must prioritize the development of robust legal frameworks and foster international collaboration to mitigate the risks associated with space warfare. The trajectory of space conflict will continue to evolve, demanding proactive measures to ensure that outer space remains a domain for peaceful exploration rather than a battleground. Conclusion. The evolution of space warfare strategies over the past 50 years reflects a dynamic shift from the Cold War's strategic competition to the contemporary landscape of cosmic conflict. As nations continue to invest in space capabilities, the challenges of militarization and weaponization will only intensify. The need for effective international cooperation and legal frameworks has never been more pressing to navigate the complexities of space warfare and preserve the peaceful use of outer space for future generations. The content presents several counterintuitive insights regarding the evolving strategies of space warfare over the last 50 years, particularly in the context of militarization versus weaponization legal frameworks and the nature of contemporary threats. 1. Militarization versus weaponization. While many associate the development of military capabilities in space with the deployment of weapons, the reality is that militarization can occur without weaponization. This distinction is crucial. Militarization refers to the use of space for military purposes like reconnaissance and communication, while weaponization involves placing actual weapons in space. Despite the rising concerns about space becoming a battlefield, many nations are focused on enhancing their military operations through existing space technologies rather than deploying offensive weapons. This challenges the perception that all military advancements in space lead directly to an arms race. 2. Legal gray areas. The 1967 Outer Space Treaty explicitly prohibits weapons of mass destruction in space but leaves conventional weapons largely unregulated. This ambiguity creates a paradox where nations can develop and potentially deploy conventional military capabilities in space without violating international law. The assumption that space is free from military conflict due to legal restrictions is misleading. The lack of clarity in the legal framework may actually encourage states to pursue military advantages without fear of legal repercussions. 3. Space debris as a tactical weapon. The discussion around space conflict often overlooks the role of space debris as a potential weapon or a strategic challenge. The increasing amount of space debris poses a significant risk to operational satellites and space missions, which could be exploited by nations as a method of disabling enemy assets without direct confrontation. This highlights a counterintuitive aspect of space warfare where the unintentional consequences of earlier advancements, i.e., space debris, may become tactical tools or hazards in future conflicts. For directed energy weapons (DEWs), the emergence of DEWs such as high-energy lasers introduces a new paradigm in warfare that fundamentally changes the goals of military engagement. Rather than focusing on physical destruction, these technologies aim to disable enemy systems with precision, suggesting a shift towards conflict strategies that minimize collateral damage and long-term repercussions. This contradicts traditional views of warfare emphasizing destruction as the primary objective. 5. Counterintuitive participation of multiple nations. The narrative often simplifies the space arms race to a triad of superpowers: USA, Russia, China, ignoring the fact that around 60 countries have a space presence. While only a few can develop offensive weapons, the broad participation indicates a more complex landscape where many nations are enhancing their military capabilities through space technology. This challenges the assumption that space militarization is solely the domain of superpowers. 6. Technological accessibility. The lowering costs and increased accessibility of space technology are reshaping the landscape of space warfare. The proliferation of commercial satellites such as those from SpaceX emphasizes that military capabilities can now be enhanced through commercial means rather than solely through government efforts. This democratization of space technology complicates the traditional narrative of state-centric military power in space. 7. Perception of threats. The evolving nature of threats such as high-altitude electromagnetic pulses (HEMP) challenges conventional understandings of space warfare. The idea that a non-kinetic attack could severely disrupt military operations by blinding or incapacitating satellite systems complicates the perception of what constitutes a space attack. This shifts the focus from physical destruction to electronic and informational warfare, altering strategies and defense mechanisms. 8. International cooperation versus competition. While there is a growing narrative of competition among nations in space, the reality is that many countries may recognize the necessity of cooperation to manage shared challenges such as space debris and the potential for conflicts. This counterintuitive notion suggests that rather than a purely adversarial approach, there may be opportunities for collaborative frameworks to address mutual security concerns in space. These insights reveal the complexities and nuances within the evolving strategies of space warfare, highlighting that the reality may be more intricate than the binary narratives of competition and conflict typically portrayed in popular discourse. The report From Cold War to Cosmic Conflict: 50 Years of Evolving Space Warfare Strategies encapsulates a critical evolution in international security dynamics, transitioning from the strategic competition of the Cold War to modern cosmic conflict. While much of the content outlines the broader trends, several significant points often overlooked could have profound implications for global security policymaking and international law. 1. Militarization versus weaponization. One of the subtle yet crucial distinctions in the report is the differentiation between militarization and weaponization. Many discussions around space often conflate these two terms. Militarization refers to the use of space for military purposes without deploying weapons, e.g., reconnaissance communication, while weaponization signifies the placement of weapons in space, turning it into a battlefield. Significance: this distinction is vital because it influences legal interpretations and policy decisions. The legal frameworks governing space, such as the Outer Space Treaty, primarily address the prohibition of weapons of mass destruction in space, creating ambiguity regarding conventional weapons. Understanding this difference helps policymakers navigate the complexities of space law and international relations, especially as nations develop military strategies that leverage space capabilities. 2. Legal gray areas in space governance. The report highlights the inadequacies of current international laws concerning space, particularly the legal gray area surrounding the weaponization of space. The Outer Space Treaty, established in 1967, prohibits weapons of mass destruction but does not clearly address conventional weapons. Significance: this legal ambiguity allows powerful states to exploit the scenario to their advantage, leading to a potential arms race in space. The failure to establish comprehensive regulations could result in a competitive environment where states may feel compelled to develop offensive capabilities to protect their interests. The absence of a robust legal framework could escalate tensions and provoke conflicts, necessitating urgent international dialogue and cooperation to prevent an arms race in outer space. 3. Emerging technologies, directed energy weapons. The report identifies directed energy weapons (DEWs) and high-energy lasers as pivotal advancements in space warfare. These technologies enable military forces to disable enemy systems without physical destruction, representing a paradigm shift in combat strategies. Significance: the development of DEWs could alter the nature of warfare by introducing non-lethal methods of engagement that focus on disabling rather than destroying adversary capabilities. This shift raises ethical and strategic questions about the future of conflict and the implications for international humanitarian law. As these technologies proliferate, their potential use in space could lead to new forms of conflict and complicate existing frameworks for managing warfare. 4. Space debris as a strategic challenge. The proliferation of space debris comprising defunct satellites and spent rocket stages presents a significant operational risk in space. With over 10,000 active satellites and a growing number of debris particles, the potential for collisions increases, complicating military operations. Significance: the presence of space debris can hinder military operations and limit the effective use of space assets as countries expand their military capabilities in space. The challenge posed by debris could lead to unintended escalations and conflicts. Addressing space debris through international cooperation and regulation is essential to ensure the sustainability of space operations and prevent potential military confrontations arising from debris-related incidents. 5. Geopolitical rivalries in space warfare. The report underscores the geopolitical rivalries among major powers, particularly the US, Russia, and China, as they enhance their space capabilities. The development of anti-satellite Assad weapons by these nations indicates a shift towards a more competitive and confrontational approach in space. Significance: the increasing militarization of space exacerbates existing geopolitical tensions, making space a potential theater for conflict. As nations invest in counter-space capabilities, the likelihood of miscalculations or confrontations grows. Understanding these dynamics is crucial for policymakers to develop strategies that mitigate risks and promote stability in an increasingly contested domain. 6. Transformation of military doctrine. The evolution of military doctrines to include space capabilities marks a significant shift in how nations approach warfare. The establishment of organizations like the U.S. Space Force reflects a recognition of space as a critical domain for national security. Significance: this transformation indicates that space will play a central role in future military strategies, requiring countries to integrate space operations into their broader military doctrines. As military strategies evolve to incorporate space, the implications for international security and conflict management will be profound, necessitating a re-evaluation of existing military alliances and defense postures. 7. The role of commercial entities in space warfare. The report points out that a significant portion of active satellites are owned by commercial entities, such as SpaceX's Starlink. This commercial presence complicates the traditional view of space as a domain solely governed by nation-states. Significance: the involvement of commercial entities in space operations introduces new stakeholders into the realm of space warfare. These companies play a crucial role in providing critical infrastructure and capabilities that military forces rely on. As commercial interests become intertwined with national security considerations, the implications for regulation, liability, and conflict resolution in space will become increasingly complex. Conclusion: the report highlights the rapid evolution of space warfare strategies and the pressing need for international cooperation and legal frameworks to address the emerging challenges. The themes discussed, particularly the distinctions between militarization and weaponization, the implications of emerging technologies, and the complexities introduced by commercial entities, underscore the necessity for robust policymaking and international dialogue to navigate the future of space as a contested domain. Failing to address these overlooked elements could have significant ramifications for global security and the stability of international relations in the context of space warfare. Here are the 4 most valuable points derived from the content on the evolution of space warfare strategies over the past 50 years, which warrant in-depth analysis and discussion. 1. Transition from Cold War strategies to current space militarization and weaponization. The historical context of space warfare strategies reveals a significant transformation from the Cold War's strategic competition to present-day militarization and potential weaponization of space. Initially, space endeavors were primarily seen through the lens of national prestige and technological superiority, with milestones like Sputnik and Apollo 11 setting the stage for military applications. This shift highlights how nations have transitioned from merely exploring and utilizing space for reconnaissance and communication to considering the deployment of actual weapons. The implications of this transition raise critical questions about international security and the potential for escalated conflict in space, necessitating further exploration of military doctrines that govern space operations. 2. Legal and regulatory challenges surrounding space warfare. The inadequacy of the current legal frameworks to address the complexities of space warfare is a pressing concern. The 1967 Outer Space Treaty primarily prohibits weapons of mass destruction in space but leaves conventional weapons in a legal gray area. This ambiguity allows states to interpret and exploit the regulations to their advantage. The challenges in formulating a comprehensive legal structure that limits the weaponization of space underscore the need for international cooperation and negotiation. An in-depth discussion on the effectiveness of existing treaties and the potential for new agreements to prevent an arms race in space is essential for global security. 3. Advancements in space warfare technologies. The current technological landscape reflects rapid advancements that have significant implications for space warfare strategies. The proliferation of over 10,000 active satellites, including commercial entities like SpaceX's Starlink, highlights the dual-use nature of space technology, where civilian advancements provide military capabilities. Additionally, the development of directed energy weapons (DEWs) such as high-energy lasers represents a shift in how military operations may be conducted in space. Analyzing the strategic advantages and vulnerabilities these technologies present will be crucial for understanding future conflicts and the nature of warfare in space. 4. Geopolitical rivalries and the future of space conflict. The geopolitical dynamics among major powers, particularly the US, Russia, and China, are increasingly evident as they enhance their respective space capabilities. The recent developments, including anti-satellite weapon tests and the establishment of military branches dedicated to space, indicate a new arms race that extends beyond terrestrial borders. This rivalry raises concerns about the implications for global security and the potential for conflict initiated in space to spill over into ground-based confrontations. Exploring the strategic motivations behind these advancements as well as the potential for international collaboration or conflict is vital for forecasting the future of space warfare. In conclusion, these points encapsulate the critical developments and challenges associated with space warfare strategies over the past 50 years. They set the stage for a broader discussion on the future of international security, legal frameworks, technological advancements, and geopolitical tensions in the domain of outer space. 1. The Space Race 1957 to 1975. The competition between the United States and the Soviet Union for supremacy in space exploration during the Cold War was characterized by a series of significant milestones, including the launch of Sputnik 1 in 1957, Yuri Gagarin's historic flight in 1961, and the Apollo 11 moon landing in 1969. This period not only showcased technological prowess but also served as a platform for military applications, leading to the development of reconnaissance satellites and missile guidance systems, effectively intertwining space exploration with national security interests. 2. Gulf War 1991. The Gulf War marked a pivotal moment in the integration of space technology into military operations. The U.S. military utilized advanced satellite systems for reconnaissance, navigation, and communication, demonstrating the strategic importance of space in modern warfare. Notably, the use of GPS technology enabled precision strikes and real-time intelligence gathering, transforming conventional warfare tactics and highlighting the critical role of space capabilities in achieving military objectives. 3. China's anti-satellite test 2007. In January 2007, China conducted a successful anti-satellite ASAT test, destroying one of its own weather satellites in low Earth orbit. This demonstration of capability raised significant international concerns about the weaponization of space and the potential for an arms race among spacefaring nations. The incident not only added to the growing body of space debris but also underscored the strategic implications of space as a domain for military engagement, prompting discussions on the need for a comprehensive legal framework to govern outer space activities. Future outlook: predictions for space warfare strategies. As we look ahead to the next several decades, the evolution of space warfare strategies will undoubtedly be shaped by technological advancements, geopolitical dynamics, and the pressing need for a robust legal framework governing outer space. Here are several key predictions for the future of space warfare. 1. Increased militarization and weaponization of space. The current trend of militarization will escalate, leading to the establishment of more comprehensive military infrastructures in space. Countries will invest heavily in satellite systems for reconnaissance, communication, and navigation, integrating them into their national defense strategies. As the distinction between militarization and weaponization blurs, we will likely witness countries developing and deploying offensive capabilities such as anti-satellite ASAT weapons, directed energy systems, and kinetic bombardment technologies. 2. Proliferation of spacefaring nations. The number of countries capable of deploying military assets in space is expected to grow significantly. With around 60 nations currently recognized as having a space presence, we anticipate that this number will increase as more states develop indigenous capabilities or cooperate with established space powers. This proliferation will heighten the complexity of international relations and increase the potential for space conflicts, especially as emerging nations seek to assert their presence in this domain. 3. Rise of commercial space militarization. The role of private companies, such as SpaceX and Blue Origin, will continue to expand in the military space sector. Governments will increasingly rely on commercial entities for satellite launches, logistics, and even developing new technologies. This shift may lead to a new form of public-private partnerships in space warfare, where commercial companies play an instrumental role in national security strategies. 4. Development of advanced technologies. Technological advancements will redefine space warfare strategies. The proliferation of directed energy weapons, DEWs, and high-energy lasers will facilitate new methods of engaging adversarial systems without causing physical destruction. The ability to disable enemy satellites or communication systems through non-kinetic means will become a focal point of military strategy, shifting the dynamics of conflict from traditional destruction to strategic incapacitation. 5. Increasing space debris and operational hazards. With the growth of satellite deployments, the issue of space debris will become more critical. The risk of collisions will necessitate robust debris mitigation strategies and potentially lead to the development of active debris removal technologies. The operational challenges posed by space debris will complicate military planning and operations, requiring new protocols and technologies to ensure the safety and effectiveness of space assets. 6. Fragmented legal frameworks and international tensions. The existing legal frameworks governing space, notably the Outer Space Treaty of 1967, will face increasing strain as nations pursue aggressive space policies. The ambiguity surrounding the legality of conventional weapons in space will prompt countries to exploit this gray area, leading to heightened tensions and potential arms races. Efforts to establish comprehensive international agreements to ban space weaponization will likely stall as competing national interests and security concerns impede consensus. 7. Emergence of space-based defense systems. As space becomes a battleground, nations may develop space-based defense systems to protect their assets and interests. This could include missile defense systems positioned in space to intercept threats or satellite constellations designed to monitor and counter hostile activities. The strategic imperative to safeguard national interests in space will drive innovations that blur the lines between defense and offense. 8. Heightened geopolitical rivalries. The competition for dominance in space will exacerbate existing geopolitical rivalries, particularly among major powers like the United States, China, and Russia. The quest for technological superiority will lead to increased military spending and a focus on developing counter-space capabilities, creating a new arms race reminiscent of the Cold War. Regional conflicts may also see an increased reliance on space assets, further intertwining terrestrial and extraterrestrial military strategies. 9. Cybersecurity concerns in space operations. As military operations in space rely more heavily on interconnected systems, the threat of cyber attacks will grow. Adversaries may seek to exploit vulnerabilities in satellite communications, navigation systems, and ground control operations. This escalation of cyber warfare will necessitate enhanced cybersecurity measures and protocols to protect critical space assets from hostile actions. 10. International cooperation and conflict resolution. Despite the potential for conflict, there will also be opportunities for international cooperation in addressing shared challenges in space. Collaborative efforts could emerge in areas such as space debris management, scientific research, and humanitarian applications of space technologies. These initiatives may provide a platform for dialogue, potentially easing tensions and fostering a more stable international environment. Conclusion. The future of space warfare strategies is poised to evolve dramatically over the next several decades. The interplay of technological innovation, geopolitical ambitions, and the need for effective legal frameworks will shape the trajectory of military activities in outer space. As nations navigate these complexities, the imperative for cooperation and conflict resolution will be more critical than ever to ensure the peaceful use of outer space for the benefit of all humanity.